Greetings all, thedvsmonkey here. Today has been a rather stressful day. In the grand scheme of things, nothing that bad, but it's just been kind of annoying. First thing, I got a work call really early, like earlier than I would normally take calls, and I knew that this person was going to be upset, and I knew why he was calling me. But I took the call anyways, because I don't want to avoid those kind of problems. It's best to sort of nip them in the bud and face them head on. The dealer was pretty PO'd, and we discussed it, and ultimately I had him laughing, and he thanked me for taking the call so early, in his words, knowing that he was going to call and give me shit. It kind of worked out that I was able to sort of bring him down a little bit. And then it just went from there. I hadn't even gotten dressed yet. So after that happened, I got dressed and I decided to go down and start on breakfast, but I also knew that I needed to collect the garbage for garbage collection today. While I was doing that, I noticed that despite the fact that I have cleaned the entire downstairs and in the kitchen and everything, because of the onslaught of ants that are coming, there were still freaking ants. I put out traps yesterday, and I realized those take a while, but it was still aggravating that pretty much every time I walk into the kitchen, I find ants. So I had to get rid of the ants, and then that put me into another wave of cleaning. I cleaned off all the counters again and picked up, anything that I could find and scrubbed it down with the lemon spray, which seems to help. And one thing just sort of leads into the other. So I wanted to make breakfast, but I wasn't going to do it if there were ants. So I had to clean up the ants. But after getting rid of the ants, I had to clean off all the counters. And once I cleaned off all the counters, I had to get all the dishes out of the way and put them in the dishwasher because now they squig me out. And then I had to wipe everything down, and I had to find new places for a lot of stuff because there's just so much crap on our counters that it makes it hard to sort of get around and find all the ants. And I know that this month is just going to be a nightmare since it's already starting out that way. So I did all that, and I still hadn't had breakfast yet. I decided to make breakfast, which I did, had breakfast and everything, and I continued to get angry emails for work, which didn't help the mood at all, because now I realized what was going on and what I was going to have to do this week because of what's going on. Then I knew I had a call, but before the conference call, I had to get into my computer, my work computer. Didn't realize that my work password expired. So now I needed to call the help desk to be able to get into the computer. So I did that. That took almost an hour because even the technician we couldn't do what needed to be done. I ultimately had to give him control of my computer, and he was able to go in and find some workarounds. But then we still ran into more problems because everything is tied in with my company. So my laptop is tied in with my iPad, which is tied into my iPhone, and everything just sort of interacts. So if one thing is bad, it's bad across all devices. So I tried to do all that and get that all done. We finally got me into the computer, into the systems, so that I was able to give myself a new password. It was all locked out, by the way, which is why it wouldn't take my password. And then I had to sync everything because some things were going on the old password and some were going on the new password. You see where I'm going here? Like everything just sort of dominoed today. So I finally got all that done, and the entire time I was on the phone with the help desk, I kept getting authorization codes sent to my phone as a text message, which was the old way I was doing it. Like I probably got 10 to 12 of those while I was on the phone with the technician. But then we set it up to go a different way with this authenticator app, and then the authenticator app kept telling me that I needed to approve an access that had been asked for. And I kept approving him and approving him and approving him. No matter how many times I approved him, it never stopped the countdown of generating a new code. And it just kept going and going and going. So he had to open up another ticket with another division so that they could take care of that. Well, I went through, after I got off the phone with him, I was able to at least get into all my devices so that I could work. And that was 1 minute before my conference call started. And then while I was on the conference call, I continued to get texts and authenticator app notifications asking me for approval. So while I was on this call, I just kept deleting the authenticator and redoing it and adding my account again. And no matter what I did, it just continued to ask me for apps. So I went back into the help desk ticket and started chatting one way, of course, because nobody answered me, saying this absolutely will not stop sending me requests for approval or sending me codes or whatever. And even right now, even though it's not like blipping and telling me that I'm getting requests for approval, I can go into the authenticator, click on my account, and it's continuing to do a countdown timer and sending out codes and codes and codes and codes. So that's incredibly aggravating. If there's one thing that sends me over the edge, it's when technology doesn't work the way it's supposed to. I know what I'm doing, and I couldn't get it to work. Well, that's because it was locked on the other side. So when I get the guy that's supposed to be able to do all that shit, and he can't get it to work either, then now I'm stuck. Because now not only can I not fix it myself, but now I'm at the mercy of somebody else fixing it for me, but they're never on my timeline. You know, like whoever's working on this, they don't give a shit that I'm getting all these codes and that my phone is blipping every like 30 seconds. And, you know, there's nothing I can do about that except grind my teeth every time I get a notification. So that got me going. Then when we were on the call, you know, just more stuff was coming out that was aggravating me. And at this point now, I'm freaking aggravated, if you couldn't tell. At this point, I realized that I could feel that, like, tension building, and I knew I needed to do something. So I decided that I was going to take 10 minutes, and I was going to go into the other room and roll out on my little yoga roller thing and try to loosen up some of those tense muscles in my back and neck and everything. And, of course, my kitty joined me. So the cat and I spent a good 10 minutes in the other room stretching and rolling out and everything, and it was just what I needed. Now that I'm calm, I need to go make lunch. All that being said, and I wanted to make sure that I blathered on, like I always do, because I think that's what you've come to expect. But I wanted to blather on, and I could feel my voice getting higher and higher and higher, and me getting more animated, so that I could show you how easy it is to freaking get set off. And if you don't stop that and do something about it, only bad things can happen. If I had gotten a phone call from somebody, I was already being pissy, then that phone call, that attitude would have come across. And I would have been pissy to the person on the phone, whether I wanted to be or not, because it had already built up and I was already at that point. That's why you got to take a second to step back. But first, you have to realize that it's happening. And sometimes, even though you can't control it, because shit's going to happen, at least if you can recognize that you're starting to build to that point, once you are able to recognize it, then you were able to do a quick pattern interrupt and stop yourself from doing it. And for me, usually that's scream singing loud music or some form of exercise, or both. A lot of times, because I'm on the road, it's got to be the scream singing, because I can't exercise in the car when I'm driving. I have come to depend on music to really alter my mood. And that goes both ways, because sometimes I'm just dragging ass and I don't feel like doing anything. I got to put a certain style of music on to get my blood pumping and to get me going. And then there's other times where my blood is squirting out and I'm hulking and I'm ready to smash shit, and that's not good either. So I look to different music to sort of loosen the sphincter and just chill out. I want to know, what do you do? What do you do when you get like crazy and you just, you want to beat people? Do you just beat people? Or do you find a way to combat that that's a little bit more conducive to not going to jail? Again, for me, it's music and exercise. Always has been. But I want to know what you do. So in the comments down below, let me know what you do to chill out or to jack yourself up. Because everybody's got a different method and a different way of going about that. And I'm infinitely amazed at what people do to take care of all that stuff. So it was a real quick one today. Just because of the fact that, I spent so much time getting stressed, and then I had to de-stress, and now I need to eat, and then continue on with work. Let me know down below what your dealio is. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, and all that shit. And remember, kids, forward and up.